My husband returned from the battlefield, bringing back the enemy nation's princess. Shang. For the sake of diplomatic relations between our two countries, I'm afraid you'll have to endure this hardship. Overnight, I was demoted from wife to concubine, becoming the laughingstock of the entire capital. Late at night, the emperor crouched by my ear, holding my foot and examining it closely. Little concubine, how do I compare to your husband? Behave yourself. Your husband is outside the door. Or do you want me to summon him in? In the gilded hall, where faint perfume lingered, embroidered shoes and garments lay scattered across the floor. No, I pleaded cautiously, only to earn his derisive snort. Guess what he came for? I remained silent. Outside stood my husband, Ji Qing. He had come to request an imperial physician for that enemy princess. Now 3 months pregnant. She demanded he summon the physician to take her pulse every few days. Suddenly, Ji Chang's voice came from beyond the screen. Your Majesty, this servant has another unwelcome request. Xiaoyu paused in his movements but did not release me. His voice was cold. Speak. The princess is carrying a child and cannot endure any distress. This servant humbly requests the emperor issue a decree granting her a proper status. Xiaoyu raised an eyebrow slightly. His gaze fixed on me with a faint, ambiguous smile. General Ji, your wife has been by your side for years. Are you truly willing to part with her? Ji Chang's voice was flat. My wife Yun and I share no affection. Granting her the position of concubine is the least I can do to honor her. I implore your Majesty to grant this favor. My entire body froze. I stared at the figure beyond the screen in utter disbelief. He had clearly said that his relationship with the enemy nation's princess was merely a charade. Xiaoyu laughed, prying away my hand that begged for mercy and murmured. I heard him. He wants you as his concubine. How could she compare to me? Whatever you desire, I can give you. Someone will discover us. I don't want to be drowned in the pond. Xiaoyu laughed aloud. Look how exhausted you are, you're talking nonsense. With me here, who dares drown you? Usually so dutiful and obedient. I silently wrapped my arms around Xiaoyu's neck. He understood my meaning, and with a cold smile, addressed the husband outside the door. Granted. The golden hairpin at my temple clinked softly. For the rest of the journey, I wept unceasingly. Xiaoyu soothed me in a gentler tone. He's blind as a bat. We'll simply cast him aside. Then will you let me be empress? Asking this was meant to force him to abandon his desires. Yet Xiaoyu only scoffed. What's so hard about that? Whatever you desire, I can give. Rumors had long circulated that Xiaoyu was a madman, a matricide and patricide who committed every conceivable evil. The imperial consort's position remained vacant to this day, for no one dared marry their daughter to him. I never imagined he could be this deranged. Late spring arrived, and clusters of flowering crabapples bloomed brilliantly outside the window. I fainted at Xiaoyu's place and woke back at the general's residence. Princess Suaningshi came to see me. Her features were unlike those of the Central Plains people, sharp and vivid. A truly beautiful face. I heard the general went to great lengths to marry you back then. I held my teacup. Silent. Indeed. Back then, Ji Qing knelt in the snow to marry me, beaten black and blue by his father. Late at night, he held me tight, swearing he could never live without me. Suaningshi stroked her belly and smiled. But now, I have both the general and a child. He was young back then, didn't know what he truly wanted. Just like me, when I first saw him on the battlefield, he tried to kill me. Suaningshi laughed as she spoke. Love and war intertwined. Yet in the end, it all melted into tenderness. A needle pierced my heart. A throbbing ache began to pulse through it. The day Ji Qing brought Suaningshi back, His eyes blazed with hatred as he swore, were it not for diplomatic ties between our nations, I would have slain that vile woman with my own hands. Later, however, I stumbled upon him and Suaningshi in the throes of passion. You were the one who played dirty first. How dare you cry now? Ji Qing chuckled softly, teasing her freely, no longer gritting his teeth. Suaningshi cried and pouted, does the general dislike me? Then kill me, end it all. How could I bear to? Ji Qing sighed softly, leading her to hide among the blossoms. Only then did I realize Ji Qing had truly fallen for her. Before leaving, Suaningshi stood by the door, boasting triumphantly, my union with the general is what all hope for. I hope you understand what it means to prioritize the greater good of family and nation. On the festival of the Weaver Girl, Ji Qing took Suaningshi to the palace banquet. I sat in the courtyard, gazing at the stars, when suddenly, someone landed beside me. The scent of dragon's drool incense drifted gently on the breeze. Raise your head. The Weaver Girl's star is behind you. That voice was unmistakable, clear, resonant, yet commanding. I didn't need to turn to know who it was. I didn't look in the direction he suggested, instead lowering my head in sullen silence. Why gaze at Vega? Even if I did, we'd still part ways. Xiaoyu scoffed. Whether we part or not is up to me. My mood remained sour. After a long while, I turned to face Xiaoyu. Could you take me to the palace? For what? To see Ji Qing. I've come to realize that my bond with Ji Qing has run its course. With his colleagues as witnesses, tonight is the perfect time to dissolve our marriage. Xiaoyu stroked his jade ring, staring at me for a long moment before suddenly curling his lips into a smile. Very well. And so, I boarded the carriage bound for the palace. I'd been there several times before and knew the palace grounds well. Xiaoyu led me into the carriage and turned down an unfamiliar alley. Your Majesty. This. Suddenly, he seized my chin. Xiaoyu's lips curled coldly. Did you think I'd let you go coup with Ji Qing? Have you forgotten what you said when you slept with me? My heart trembled, my cheeks burning with shame. The day I stumbled upon Ji Qing and Suaningshi in their embrace, I was under the influence of the union powder. In my dazed state, I mistakenly threw myself upon a man, thinking he was Ji Qing. That man was Xiaoyu. I still remember our words from that night. My lady, you've mistaken me for someone else. You. Don't speak. What if you deny it when you wake? If you deny it, so be it. I won't reason with you. Now. Xiaoyu's amber eyes fixed on me with unhurried calm. Using me as a substitute. Tasting me then discarding me, that's abandoning someone after seducing them. Huddled in the corner, I felt enveloped by his crisp aura. My hands helplessly clung to his shoulders. Wait. Someone. That's exactly what I want. Xiaoyu had set up a screen in the middle of the banquet hall. Outside, courtiers could vaguely make out hazy silhouettes within. He brought me to the palace banquet with utter brazenness. My palms sweated with nerves. Just as I opened my mouth, Xiaoyu silenced me with a finger to his lips. He could hear. Only then did I notice, below us. To the right, Ji Qing and Suaningshi. Ji Qing's soft, breathy sounds drifted through the screen. Stop it. Xiaoyu murmured sharply, his tone tightening abruptly. Suaningshi whined. But I'm not full yet. That's improper. Though reprimanding, his voice held indulgence. Xiaoyu wrapped his arm around me, leaning close to whisper in my ear, what would you like to eat? I'll serve it to you. This statement caused the commotion across the room to abruptly cease. Ji Qing abruptly stood up. Your servant greets your majesty. You may rise. Xiaoyu's tone was cold. At today's family banquet, my esteemed ministers may act as they please. After speaking, He openly instructed me. That fish has many bones. Wait for me to pick them out for you. The room fell silent. Several elderly ministers rose in agitation. May we ask, Your Majesty, whose daughter is present? Xiaoyu chuckled softly. As it happens, she shares quite a connection with General Ji. The Ji family had numerous collateral branches, even Ji Qing himself likely couldn't recall how many sisters he had. So she was General Ji's cousin. The old ministers pleaded with Xiaoyu to make her empress. But Xiaoyu paid them no mind. Eyes lowered as he patiently picked the bones from my fish. His elegant hands worked swiftly, leaving only tender white flesh on the plate. My heart raced with fear. I downed cup after cup of fruit wine at the table, oblivious to my own state. By the time I felt lightheaded, it was already too late. Xiaoyu caught my swaying body, his voice tinged with frustration. Why aren't you reassured? Don't you trust that I wouldn't abandon you? I slumped limply into his embrace, my nose stinging as tears spilled down my cheeks. Beyond the screen, Suaningxi threw a petty tantrum. He demanded Ji Qing pick bones for him. Ji Qing had never been thorough before, but this time he'd honed his skill. Xiaoyu lowered his gaze, meeting my wet eyes. Suddenly, he cupped my cheeks and bent down to bite my neck. His bite was slightly too hard. Startled, I gasped aloud. The murmurs from the next room abruptly ceased. Your Majesty, that woman. Just now. Xiaoyu chuckled indifferently. It matters not. She is young and cannot endure such rough treatment. Ji Qing seemed hesitant, sitting back down after a moment's silence. Terrified, I buried my face deep into Xiaoyu's embrace, dreading the screen might collapse and expose my panic-stricken expression. Xiaoyu chuckled softly. I shall retire first. You may continue as you wish. He lifted me in his arms. As he turned, the screen suddenly groaned dangerously. Ji Qing rose again, his gaze shifting toward us. Oh no, I thought, burying my head once more. Moments later, the screen crashed down with a thunderous roar. As the dust settled, Xiaoyu stood exposed before everyone, still holding me in his arms. Dead silence filled the room. No one could have imagined Xiaoyu now. His clothes slightly disheveled from my clinging, utterly devoid of imperial dignity. Thud. The sound of the banquet table crashing to the floor. Ji Qing staggered forward. Your Majesty. How could this woman? Cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I buried my face in Xiaoyu's chest, clinging to him tightly. My ragged breaths brushed against the side of his neck. Suddenly, the golden hairpin atop his head loosened, and his black hair cascaded down. Xiaoyu instinctively grabbed the back of my head, pulling me tightly into his embrace. General Ji, you have overstepped your bounds. Ji Qing refused to back down. May I ask, Your Majesty, how old is this woman? Which of our clan's daughters is she? Hearing this, Xiaoyu's mood lifted considerably. What? General Ji wishes to act as matchmaker for this emperor? Or perhaps, as an elder brother is like a father. Today I shall arrange this joyous matter. Ji Qing choked. This servant fears those with ulterior motives might use my name to harm your Majesty. I beg your mercy. Allow me to glimpse her appearance. The old ministers all chimed in agreement. General Ji speaks wisely. Your Majesty. It is best to be cautious in all matters. My heart was in turmoil. Xiaoyu's mood was unpredictable. Perhaps he was merely amused by toying with me. If he truly grew tired of the game and cast me aside. Xiaoyu lowered his head and whispered to me, Did you hear them? They want me to hand you over. Do you want me to agree? No. No? Xiaoyu said calmly. Since you don't want me to, then say something nice. If it pleases me, I'll grant your wish. Something nice? Xiaoyu smiled sweetly. Beg me. I whispered, Please. Is that all? He rubbed my fingertips and murmured. Your life isn't worth a few heartfelt words. I knew what he wanted to hear. Yet nerves made even a single word impossible. Xiaoyu chuckled, lifting his head. Inconvenient today. Everyone. Withdraw. Several elderly ministers stood their ground, blocking Xiaoyu's path to plead earnestly, Your Majesty. Today we implore you to give us reassurance. Ji Qing stood at the forefront, refusing to budge. Xiaoyu gave a cold laugh, then suddenly twisted my lower back lightly. I shuddered, letting out a sharp gasp. The noisy crowd instantly fell silent. Did you hear that? Xiaoyu lifted his eyelids, his gaze sweeping indifferently over the assembly. Shall I invite you all to witness my wedding night? I'm quite impatient. Most ministers were over 50, flushed crimson with embarrassment. They muttered, This is indecent. They'd likely never seen anyone as shameless as Xiaoyu in their entire lives. What a disappointment to the late emperor's trust. Some even began wailing and lamenting. Xiaoyu paid them no mind, carrying me as he strode boldly through the crowd and out. Only when they reached an empty spot did Xiaoyu stop. Enough. How much longer do you plan to hide? I slid down from his embrace. Before I could steady myself, I suddenly whirled around and stumbled out. Yun Shang. Xiaoyu bellowed, quickening his pace to seize my arm and drag me back. Why are you running? Dazed by drunkenness, I stammered in terror. I'm going to be drowned in a pig cage. Xiaoyu laughed bitterly. Why would I drown you? Tears streamed down my face, my voice hollow and mournful, like a wronged ghost. I'm defiled. I have a lover. Xiaoyu's expression darkened. You think I'm unclean? He lifted me up, pinching my cheeks fiercely. Open your eyes wide. Who do you call your lover? I belched from the alcohol, my sobs growing more wretched. Heavenly Father, spare my life. Instead of comforting me, Xiaoyu flashed a handsome smile, his voice dark and sinister. Then what shall we do? Shall we go to the underworld together, my love, and become ghostly lovebirds? At these words, eunuchs and palace maids around us collapsed to their knees in a clatter. Your Majesty is the Son of Heaven. Such treasonous words are unthinkable. Xiaoyu paid them no mind, his gaze fixed solely on my face. Seeing my hesitation, he leaned closer and whispered softly. Think it through. I'm right here, reach out and you can touch me. 1,000 times better than that faithless husband of yours. The memory of that one night's passion made my head spin. Yet in moments, I shook my head, my resolve shifting. No. I must divorce Ji Qing first. Must you divorce him first? Yes. TSK. Xiaoyu's expression flickered with impatience. Such strict adherence to protocol. He waved his hand, ordering the drafting of an edict. The chief eunuch hurriedly brought the writing implements, brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Xiaoyu lowered his gaze, swiftly scribbling a few strokes before tossing the brush aside and affixing his seal. There. The divorce is finalized. He flung the imperial decree into the grand eunuch's arms, then grabbed my curious body and pulled me back. Can we be together now? Am I free now? I could scarcely believe it. Yes. Xiaoyu's tone was curt as he led me to the sedan chair. The entire journey passed in a daze. I leaned forward, peering straight into the grand eunuch's embrace. Once inside the bedchamber, I asked again, does your imperial decree hold more weight than the divorce papers? MHM. Xiaoyu kept his head down, diligently undoing my sash. Just as my spirits lifted, his hand slid beneath my undergarments. Shang, when will you grant me your name? I stared at his bewilderingly handsome face, touched it, and murmured, adulterer, ah. Mid-sentence, Xiaoyu forcefully tossed me onto the bed, Don't speak. When I awoke, the room was thick with the misty haze of dragon's drool incense. I rolled over, feeling as though my own flesh no longer belonged to me. While dressing, I accidentally knocked over a tea bowl, alerting the palace maids outside. They filed in one by one, respectfully addressing me, Your Highness. I cautiously asked, What, Your Highness? His Majesty personally conferred the title this morning. Recalling last night's events, my face flushed crimson with embarrassment and dread. I demanded, Where is the imperial edict? Your Highness, you are unaware that the edict His Majesty drafted last night was rejected by the Secretariat. They said it would unsettle the troops and be detrimental to governance. This morning, His Majesty went to the imperial study early precisely because of this matter. My thoughts were in disarray, and I suddenly felt my head was in grave danger. I immediately dressed and headed for Xiaoyu's imperial study. On the way, I overheard someone say, Several senior ministers are currently following General Ji to the general's residence. They were determined to dig up yesterday's woman, no matter what. But what good would that do? If her background was noble, she'd naturally be crowned empress. If not, she'd be eliminated to prevent future trouble. A chill ran through me, and I couldn't take another step. The man added, Who dares defy the new emperor's will? Though the new emperor appeared decisive, real power remained in the hands of the elders. He had no say whatsoever. My face turned ashen. It's over. Completely over. Xiaoyu held no real authority. Better to flee now. Turning, I saw Xiaoyu's personal eunuch standing respectfully behind me. I hurriedly said, I have urgent matters requiring me to return to the general's residence. Would you kindly escort me there? Eunuch? Xiaoyu was held back, and those around him dared not defy me. They promptly escorted me into the general's residence. No sooner had I caught my breath than Jiqing arrived. Shang, where did you go last night? My palms sweated with nervousness. Nowhere. His jet-black eyes scrutinized me intently before he murmured to himself. Ah. Seeing you like this. I was overthinking. Suddenly, he reached out and cupped my face. Shang, I've been too busy lately. Don't blame me. Once I have free time, I'll be with you. His tone, like a handout, struck the deepest wound in my heart. I pulled away from his touch. Since your heart belongs to another, let's part ways cleanly. I'm leaving the capital. Can you return my mother's keepsake? Before she died, she left a jade pendant as a token of affection for her future son-in-law. That pendant is still on Ji Cheng's person. Shang, what are you talking about? Ji Cheng frowned. I have no time for this now. His Majesty has taken a fancy to my cousin, and my colleagues are pressing me to verify my identity. Don't cause trouble. My heart tightened at the memory of their threat to execute me that morning. I dared not slacken my vigilance. Give me the keepsake, and I'll leave immediately. Ji Cheng closed his eyes, his exhaustion plain to see. Shang, no one will want a woman who's been divorced. Every household has multiple wives and concubines. Given your background, becoming my concubine wouldn't be a disgrace. I opened my mouth but couldn't utter a word. Ji Cheng once swore solemnly, You are my Ji Cheng's wife for life. I'll heed every word you say. But now he's changed too. After I spoke words he didn't want to hear, Ji Cheng walked away without looking back. There's no reason left for me to linger here. Packing my belongings, I walked alone to the door only to collide head-on with Suaningshi. Returning from shopping, her maid grabbed my collar and yanked me back. Laughing, Where'd you think you were going? She knew some martial arts and was surprisingly strong. I shoved her away coldly. Don't touch me. Suaningshi laughed aloud. You women from the Central Plains are like little chicks, so soft and weak. Are you planning to cry to the general that I bullied you? Servants and maids gathered silently around like spectators. None speaking for me. The maid used force, flinging me to the ground. I braced myself, trying to sit up, but Suaningshi casually lifted her foot, pressing her embroidered shoe firmly into my shoulder. I hear you're demanding a divorce from the general? How dare a mere concubine demand a divorce? Her current attire already followed the protocol of a legitimate wife. How splendid. Before I could speak, Suaningshi seized my chin. She crouched before me with leisurely disdain, sneering. Ignorant woman. You can't even read the situation. The general's cousin has become His Majesty's favorite. Her rise to power is imminent. Too bad you won't live to see those good days. Pa. I don't want it. She snorted coldly at my rebuke and commanded. Strip her naked. Tomorrow, she'll entertain the general's distinguished guests. Stop. Don't touch me. Never had I endured such humiliation. I struggled desperately. The few shrewish women who attacked me were bitten, drawing blood. They screamed in pain. But they outnumbered me, and I couldn't overpower them all. When Ji Qing rushed back to the mansion, I was being pinned down and stripped. Stop! His voice was deep with fury. He kicked the old servant holding me away. The grip loosened. I rolled over, landing on my stomach, gasping for breath. In my hand, I still clutched a handful of hair I'd yanked from someone. Suaningshi's defiance crumbled instantly. General. She insulted me first. The others who'd attacked fell silent. Frozen. They all sensed Ji Cheng's fury. Ji Cheng said nothing. Instead, he lowered his head, his gaze fixed intently on my exposed collarbone, his eyes churning with a storm. The spot covered by her clothing bore the lingering kiss marks from her intimate moment with Xiaoyu just the other day. As Suaningshi tried to speak further, Ji Qing said coldly, "The lady is unwell. Escort her back to her quarters." This time, it was Ji Cheng's own men who moved. The area cleared swiftly. My jaw clenched sharply. Ji Qing seized it, forcing my head up. His voice was chillingly cold. Tell me. Who was it? I tilted my head back, suddenly finding the whole situation absurd. Men could have multiple wives and concubines. Yet women were confined to the inner quarters, forced to guard some meaningless chastity. Ji Qing, how dare you ask me? If it weren't for your beloved wife feeding me that aphrodisiac, would I have become this? I was mad. All I wanted was to humiliate Ji Cheng, even if it cost me my life. A thick layer of scorn flashed in his eyes, and he blurted out without thinking, "So that's why you were so eager to divorce me. You whore." Those two words stung me. I whipped my head around and slapped him across the face. "You're the whore. The most disgusting whore." Ji Cheng's gaze was icy cold, as if he were desperately holding back rage. "You're the filthy one. Don't drag Ninger into this." I spat at him. His men kept their heads bowed, afraid to witness his humiliation. He'd forgotten, perhaps, that I'd always had a fiery temper. Once I started a fight, there was no appeasing me. Ji Qing gave a cold laugh, the last shred of affection in his eyes vanishing without a trace. "Yun Shang, what kind of concubine doesn't entertain guests? I'll just assume you were licked by a dog, fitting for your status." Smack! I struck him hard across the face again. He trembled with rage. Ji Qing fell silent, staring blankly at the stone tiles. He murmured after a long moment, "I'll have it investigated. From now on, you're not to set foot outside the general's residence." I laughed bitterly. What if I told you that man was royal kin? Would you dare kill him? Is that so? Contempt flickered in his eyes. Then come with me to see His Majesty, so you can give up this delusion. Ji Qing was furious this time, dragging me straight to the imperial study. His military achievements gave him a rather flamboyant demeanor. Xiaoyu was in the imperial study discussing affairs when Ji Qing abruptly interrupted him. Yet, he didn't seem annoyed. Oh, General Ji is in such a good mood today. Bringing his lady to the palace for a sightseeing trip? Ji Qing lifted his robe and knelt swiftly. Your Majesty, I beg you to uphold justice. Oh, justice. Xiaoyu murmured with a low chuckle. Go on. Tell me. Ji Qing yanked me before Xiaoyu. Lady Yun has been consorting with imperial relatives and nobles. This servant begs your Majesty to uncover the identity of this adulterer and uphold the law of the land. Xiaoyu's mood was clearly elevated. His tone playful. Royal nobles? Did she tell you that? Yes. But I distinctly recall General Ji, just yesterday, pleading earnestly for me to grant Suaningshi a proper status. Now you're meddling in Yunshang's affairs too? She is my lawful wife. Naturally, she must uphold her wifely duties. You certainly have broad responsibilities. Xiaoyu let out a soft snort, leaning lazily against the dragon throne as he propped his head up to look at me. Little lady, what do you think? I choked, turning my head away. I want a divorce. Ji Qing seized my wrist with such force it felt like he might crush the bone. Don't even think about it. Clang! A dagger whizzed past Ji Qing's wrist, embedding itself deep into the pillar behind him. Xiaoyu's expression finally turned icy. The divorce. I approve. Veins throbbed violently on Ji Qing's temples. The bite marks on her neck are proof. Your Majesty's judgment is unjust. If this gets out. So what if it gets out? Xiaoyu lifted his eyelids, his smile laced with coldness. That mark? I bid it. If you're not afraid of death, spread it. Ji Qing froze, then turned deathly pale. She snapped her gaze toward me. Last night. Xiaoyu spoke unhurriedly. Last night. Oh, you mean this emperor and Shangshang? We were most delighted. I kept my head bowed, clutching my skirt hem tightly, my face set in silence. Shangshang knows how to speak sweetly, how to coax. He laughed aloud. Ji Qing, he's far superior to your barbarian princess. Your Majesty. Ji Qing raised his voice, eyes brimming with humiliation. She is this servant's lawful wife. Xiaoyu's gaze froze over like ice shards. If she is your lawful wife, why demote her to a concubine? Who accompanied you into the palace last night? Who manages the household affairs? Ji Qing, if you truly regarded her as your lawful wife, how could you fail to uncover the murderer who poisoned her with the union bliss powder? Couldn't find out? Or didn't want to? The barrage of questions left Ji Qing speechless. The color drained from his face. Your servant. Xiaoyu showed no mercy. The one you scorn, I find most precious. She's stubborn, refusing to accept your divorce papers. She keeps returning time and again. Imperial edicts proved useless. Better to seize the moment than wait for a favorable day. General Ji, sign the divorce papers. I shall keep a close watch on her myself and never trouble you again. Ji Qing opened his mouth to protest, but Xiaoyu's smile held a chill. I am not negotiating with you. For a fleeting moment, the look in Ji Qing's eyes as he met Xiaoyu's was one of bitter resignation. But it vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and he lowered his gaze. His fists clenched so tightly the veins stood out on his knuckles. Your servant obeys the imperial decree. I finally obtained Ji Qing's divorce papers and reclaimed my mother's belongings. He left. Only Xiaoyu and I remained in the room. Xiaoyu tapped lightly on the tabletop. Shangshang, come here. I approached him obediently. Xiaoyu set down his brush and asked patiently. Did you intend to run just now? I glanced at him cautiously. Yes. Feared I lacked the power to protect you? After a moment's silence, he suddenly pinched my chin to examine me. He chuckled. Why do you look like a little dog? covered in so many wounds from a fight. He rubbed ointment onto the places where the maids had scratched me. I stared at his fingertips. Even his fingertips radiated nobility. Why on earth did he set his sights on me? Xiaoyu lowered his eyes. His tone indifferent. Put your heart at ease. Even if I drown them all, I won't let them touch you. I remained silent for a long while. Whatever he asked of me, I would do. Xiaoyu chuckled. You're quite obedient today. Give me a kiss. After a day apart. I've missed you terribly. Someone's outside. Want them to see? Then I'll carry you to the window. I muttered protests for a while. Xiaoyu chuckled. Such a chattering woman. With that, he carried me into the inner chamber. I didn't know Ji Qing hadn't left. He stood outside the door, hearing every sound from inside. He stared resentfully for a long while before finally departing. That day, I slept like the dead on Xiaoyu's bed. Perhaps from the ordeal, I developed a high fever. I drifted in and out of consciousness all day. Xiaoyu personally tended to me, bustling about. By the time I regained my strength, several days had passed. Seeing me constantly listless, Xiaoyu summoned the civil and military officials to accompany us on the autumn hunt. The autumn breeze brought refreshing coolness. The mountains, once cloaked in green, had begun to turn yellow. Wearing a veil, I sat on the high platform and saw Ji Qing and Sua Ningxi. Sua Ningxi, now under Ji Qing's care, looked like a peony blooming proudly. In an instant, Ji Qing seemed to sense something and looked over. Our eyes met. Ji Qing turned away expressionlessly. He placed a freshly peeled, blanched shrimp into Sua Ningxi's bowl. Shang Shang, eat some meat. Xiaoyu called to me. Only then did I lower my head, picking up small pieces of meat from my bowl to eat. These past few days, everyone has treated me as Ji Qing's cousin. They all believe Ji Qing is about to rise to great heights, offering congratulations throughout the banquet. Ji Qing, however, raised his cup and said to Xiaoyu, "This servant must also congratulate your majesty on finding such a fine match." Two gazes met in midair. Sparks flying. Xiaoyu smiled faintly. Had we met years ago, we might even have children by now. Ji Chang's expression stiffened. My wife Yun and I shared many years of affection. We did conceive several times. But her health was frail, and we couldn't keep the child. It was a pity. Xiaoyu's smile held a chill. General Ji, perhaps you should examine your own health. After 3 rounds of wine, the mood lifted, and the men rode their horses deep into the dense forest. Xiaoyu held me close in his embrace. He called out loudly, "Whoever hunts a brown bear gets the first reward." Then, turning to Ji Qing, who was mere inches away, he added, "Shangshang needs a new cloak. I hear fox fur is splendid. General Ji, I'd be most grateful for your assistance." Ji Chang's eyes darkened. "Your servant will spare no effort." He left Siningxi behind, charging alone into the thicket. Xiaoyu, however, remained, holding me close. He drew his bow right where he stood. The next instant, the bowstring snapped taut. The arrow's tip aimed squarely at Ji Chang's retreating back. I was terrified out of my wits. "What are you doing? Jealous?" Xiaoyu's tone was tinged with resentment. "You looked at him several times just now, and drank a few extra cups of wine." I racked my brain, unable to come up with a plausible excuse. Ever since I was little, whenever I got nervous, I'd start drinking recklessly. Xiaoyu released his hold. The arrow shot toward Ji Chang's back. My heart stopped in terror. If Ji Qing died, chaos would erupt in the army, and everything would collapse. Ji Qing! Clang! The arrowhead grazed Ji Chang's arm and embedded itself deep into the tree trunk. It also pinned a lifeless rabbit. Ji Qing turned, his expression darkening. What does your majesty intend? Xiaoyu trotted his horse over at a leisurely pace. Shangsheng wanted the little rabbit. Startling General Ji. I was so terrified my body went limp, nearly tumbling off my horse. Xiaoyu acted with lightning speed, catching me and leaning close to my ear. His warm breath tickled my ear. If you don't want him to die, then coax the emperor properly. In my panic, I cupped his lips and pressed my own against his. Xiaoyu remained still at first, letting me press against his lips, making me feel embarrassed. Just as I was flustered and about to give up, he suddenly pulled me into his embrace and called out, "General Ji, this rabbit is yours." With that, he seized the reins, spurred his horse, and galloped deeper into the forest. Slow down. Beyond my desperate cries, only the whistling wind through the trees echoed. Xiaoyu didn't ease his pace, instead, he galloped faster. He was truly furious at my earlier outburst. He carried me at breakneck speed until we reached a lake. Tying the horse to a tree, he dismounted and strode toward the shore. Perched on the saddle, I stretched my legs but couldn't reach the stirrups, the horse was too tall. Your Majesty. Xiaoyu ignored me completely. Gritting my teeth, I scrambled clumsily off the horse, twisting my ankle. Only then did I stumble toward him, sinking into the mud with each step. Are you angry? Xiaoyu shot me a sidelong glance. What do you think? I guess I'm just not cut out for this. I laid my heart bare for you, and now I wonder whose side you're really on. I blinked and said, I hope you'll be well. Xiaoyu narrowed his eyes. Yunsheng, you dare offer such a half-hearted response? I grabbed his sleeve, catching my breath. I came from the north. I know the hardships civilians endure during war. As long as Ji Qing remains, peace in the northern border holds. Xiaoyu's gaze shifted. So that's why you refused to confront Ji Qing? Yes. A pang of sadness washed over me. I knew well the weight of personal feelings versus the greater duty to family and nation. Though he had wronged me, as long as he served the people well, he must not die. They all call you a tyrant, but I know you pore over memorials late into the night, exhausting your mind for the sake of the state. I wish for you to live 100 years. Xiaoyu lowered his head, brushing my ear with an unreadable expression. Can you truly swallow your grievances? I choked, replying, even if I can't, I must. If only one of us could live, me or Ji Qing, which would you choose? He pressed. I frowned in anguish, silent for a long while. Xiaoyu's previously mild expression instantly did a complete redo. He yanked me up and flung me onto the horse. In my opinion, he said, asking you is pointless. Better to do something more interesting with you. My collar loosened, and I clutched him in fright. No. No. Shangsheng, hold on tight. If you fall, I won't save you. That night, Xiaoyu was exceptionally ruthless. He kept comparing himself to Ji Qing. Comparing everything, how he had more stamina, how he was gentler, how he could last longer. He couldn't protect the child. That's his failure. I'm different. Shangsheng, who do you love more, me or Ji Qing? I steadied myself shakily and stammered, your. The room was stifling. Xiaoyu's cool hand brushed my burning cheek as he murmured, look up. Call out. I felt like I was melting. Your Majesty. Say my name. Xiaoyu. After returning that day, Xiaoyu suddenly became preoccupied. My status confined me to the palace, where I spent my days listening to palace maids recount news from outside. I heard Suaningshi now lived in ease. For carrying his child, Ji Qing indulged her every whim. I heard unrest in the north, and General Ji was preparing for another campaign. I froze. When did this happen? Just days ago. The northern tribes unilaterally tore up the treaty and declared war. I sat by the window all day. Come evening, Xiaoyu returned. He seemed ill. His health failing. Coughing constantly. I slipped out secretly to ask the Grand Eunuch. What has been troubling your majesty these past days? Ah. It's all because of General Ji's deployment. The chief eunuch shot me a troubled glance. His Majesty and General Ji are at odds over who should lead the expedition. He hasn't slept for days and has caught a chill. Your ladyship. Surely you still hold some sway with General Ji. Perhaps. You could try to persuade him? I hear Ji Qing has been staying in the side chambers adjacent to the imperial study these past days. He stubbornly refuses to lead the troops into battle. Xiaoyu won't agree to replace him. So he refuses to leave. I watched Xiaoyu quietly. He smiled. His features beautifully illuminated by the candlelight. What are you staring at? Is Ji Qing refusing to go to war? Xiaoyu paused mid-motion of unrolling his sleeve. I thought you missed me. But it turns out you miss him? I miss you. My ears flushed crimson as the truth slipped out. He yanked me closer. His voice dark and menacing. Want to sleep tonight? I shrank back. Stammering. Your Majesty is ill. You mustn't pass your sickness on to me. Xiaoyu laughed bitterly. You ungrateful little thing. When I pass away, you'll be the first to flee. Come here. I'll hold you close tonight. I grimaced. Better not. I don't want to get sick. Xiaoyu choked. You truly despise me? I fell silent, retreating a few steps. Xiaoyu scolded with a laugh. What a character. After washing up, he retired to bed. Listening to his breathing grow steady, I quietly slipped from the bed. After dressing, I went to the side hall. Ji Qing sat in the corner, clad in court robes. Hearing the movement, he lifted his head slightly. A faint light reflected in his dull eyes, mirroring my figure. He remained seated, motionless, fingertips twisting. He called out, Changcheng. I sat down opposite him and asked, why won't General Ji lead the troops into battle? Ji Cheng's expression tightened. Have we grown so distant? I ignored him and countered, is it because of Suaningxi? Ji Qing pressed his lips together. Yes. Ninger. She doesn't want me to harm her own kind. My hands tightened. I rose, stepped before Ji Qing, and stared at him. Just as he was about to speak, I suddenly raised my hand and struck him hard across the face. The sharp crack of the slap echoed through the side hall. Ji Qing froze. I said, Ji Qing, you may forget your promise to me, but don't forget the hundreds of lives resting on your shoulders. His eyes flashed with shock. Years ago, my entire clan, elders and villagers, died by enemy blades to save your life. You swore you'd become a general, defending our homeland. You vowed to keep barbarian hooves from ever setting foot in Central Plains again. That's why I journeyed thousands of miles with you to the capital. Ji Cheng's face paled. Shang. I snapped. My voice laced with frustration. You married Suaningxi for peace between our nations. I won't interfere. But now, you refuse to march because of her? Then I'll kill Suaningxi myself. This battlefield, you must fight. Whether you want to or not. My eyes burned with fury. I turned toward the door and commanded. Guards! Bring Suaningxi here. The imperial guards waiting outside responded in unison, yes. Your Majesty. Ji Qing leapt to his feet. You dare. My gaze burned into his as I spoke fiercely. Your Majesty fears scandal. I do not. I am but a woman, caught in jealousy. Killing Suaningxi means only death. Ji Qing. Think carefully. Ji Qing remained silent for a long moment. At this moment, Xiaoyu's imperial guards stood united behind me. They awaited only my command to storm the general's residence and seize the prisoner. Ji Qing gritted his teeth. Yun Shang, you're quite something. Not a shred of the marital affection we shared these past years remains in your heart. As if deaf to his words, I turned without a glance and strode out of the side hall. Further discussion is futile. General, please proceed. The Grand Eunuch wore a look of satisfaction. Your Majesty is truly formidable. Now that I had spoken these words, the entire court would have nothing more to say. But after today, having completely severed ties with Ji Qing, my true identity might no longer remain concealed. Fighting off the dizziness, I said, bring Suaningxi into the palace. Tell her I wish to speak with her. Yes, Your Majesty. The very night Suaningxi entered the palace, Ji Qing departed for the campaign. Shortly after, a report came, Your Highness. The general's wife has arrived. Hearing that title again after half a month, I felt a momentary daze. Then, Suaningxi's voice carried in. My husband and Your Majesty share kinship. I beg Your Majesty's mercy, for his sake. Allow him to remain in the capital to accompany me during childbirth. The Grand Eunuch sought my consent. I nodded, signaling her to enter. Suaningxi pushed through the crowd and barged in. Your Majesty. Her words caught in her throat. Spotting me, her tone abruptly shifted, growing stiff. Why are you here? Was it you who stopped him from going to war? I asked. Suaningxi's earlier fawning expression vanished completely. She lifted her chin haughtily. So what if it was me? The general cherishes me and willingly resigned his post for me. That's something you can only envy, isn't it? I stared at her and said softly, slap her. Someone below immediately carried out the order. Suaningxi received a solid slap across her face. Glaring at me viciously, I am a princess. How dare you strike me? Slap her. Smack. Another slap. Yun Shang. You vile servant. You. I looked up at her face and said, obstructing our nation's general from going to war is a capital offense. With war between our nations, you dare claim the title of enemy princess, also a capital offense. This beating is already lenient. Suaningxi suddenly lunged forward, trying to charge at me. A group of people held her back. Her eyes reddened, as if gazing upon her father's murderer. Yun Shang. Just wait for the general's triumphant return. Then, he will surely avenge me. As the words fell, the group revealed looks of utter contempt. Ji Qing's triumphant return meant her homeland's defeat. One moment pleading for her nation, the next hoping it would become her husband's stepping stone. Such a spineless turncoat deserved no respect. Exhausted, I ordered, keep a close watch on her. No mishaps. Gag her mouth too. Right up until the last moment before departure. Suaningxi continued to hurl insults at me. Returning to my bedchamber, I removed my hairpins and rings. Staring at my reflection in the mirror, I recalled many years ago, Ji Qing holding me, hiding amidst the ruins. Beyond the cracks, rivers of blood flowed. My kin had their bellies sliced open by the barbarians' long blades. Those men took pleasure in desecrating corpses day after day. Back then, I swore an oath, one day, I would witness their downfall. When Ji Qing took the military examinations, I rose before dawn and stayed up late, cooking porridge and meals for him. I feared his body wouldn't get enough nourishment. I cherish my life because I dread not living to see their deaths. As I lay down, Xiaoyu stirred. The quilt instantly filled with my floral scent. Feeling better? Xiaoyu closed his eyes and pulled me into his embrace. After so long apart, his hands were cold. You knew all along? I've listened to your sleep talking until my ears grew calloused. My nose stung, and I held him tight, speechless for a long while. Don't cry, Xiaoyu said. I protected you back then. And I still do now. Rain began falling outside the window, chilling the night. I vaguely recalled the happy times with my parents and brothers in the northern lands. Those memories, buried deep in my mind because of the horrors that followed, had faded. I only remembered that back then, it was Ji Qing who protected me. Now, it was someone else. As the weather turned colder, the war in the north grew increasingly deadlocked. During this time, Suan Ningxi caused a few disturbances. No one paid him any mind. By the time winter arrived, news of victory came from the north. The battle was won. The pall of gloom that had hung over the entire court vanished instantly. Every day, we awaited the triumphant return of the army. Your Majesty, the general's wife has grown increasingly brazen these past few days. She keeps muttering about making you regret it. I had thought her words were mere ravings. Yet one day, as I sat with Xiaoyu reviewing memorials, an urgent dispatch arrived. General Ji has vanished. Xiaoyu furrowed his brow slightly. What did vanished mean? As the army passed through Yinyu Pass, days of heavy rain had breached the riverbank. The general fell into the river and was swept away. The messenger paused briefly before adding, rumors in the camp suggest it was. What was it? It was His Majesty who took the general's lawful wife. Consumed by shame and grief, the general sought death. Clatter. The brush in my hand suddenly fell onto the paper. My face was blank with bewilderment. Ji Qing wouldn't have a shred of old affection left for me. How could he possibly die for me? Xiaoyu gave me a faint glance. Nonsense. But that very night, the old ministers knelt before the grand hall, their righteous indignation boiling over. Begged the emperor to execute the demon concubine, to appease the army's hearts. Accompanying them were numerous soldiers returning from the battlefield. The scene was overwhelming. They presented an unmistakable stance: unless I died, this matter would never be settled. Thus, my identity was exposed before all. Suan Ningxi laughed maniacally, locked within the palace hall, shouting incessantly, Yinshang, you're dead. Ji Cheng's deputy knelt before the hall, weeping bitterly. The general relied on the lady's intelligence to inflict heavy losses on the enemy. Yet the demon concubine imprisoned her in the palace out of personal grudge. Without justice for this, the people's fury will never be appeased. Seated within the hall, I listened to the piercing cries outside, my body growing icy cold. Xiaoyu went to the front to discuss countermeasures with others. Before leaving, he stroked my hair and said, "Don't panic. This has nothing to do with you." But how could it not concern me? Still, I no longer wished to flee. This great victory would see the forces of Central Plains gradually erode and dismantle them over the coming decades. Revenge was served. The watch drums outside had already sounded 3 times. Suddenly, a figure leapt down from the rafters. Before I could utter a sound, a hand clamped over my mouth. It was me. The unexpected voice made me instantly cease struggling. Staring in shock, I watched as the person pulled off their mask. It was Ji Qing. He was unharmed. His eyes were sharp and alert. How could he resemble a dead man? "I've come to take you away." He pulled the jade hairpin from my hair, the one that would have triggered an alarm, and yanked me to my feet. Someone behind us called out, "General, the princess has been safely rescued." MHM. Withdraw. A bad feeling gripped my heart. "Ji Qing, explain this to me clearly." Ji Qing paused. "The palace is about to descend into chaos. For the sake of our past bond, I'll spare your life. Shang, if you'll come with me, I'll forgive all that happened before." I suddenly pulled my hand away. "Are you planning a rebellion?" Ji Cheng's expression darkened. "Ning'er carries my child. For her sake, I have no choice." I never imagined such words would ever come from Ji Cheng's mouth. His fake death was a scheme orchestrated with Suan Ningxi. and Suaningshi is a northern barbarian. This isn't merely rebellion, it's treason. Ji Qing, do you even remember where you belong? Facing my accusation, Ji Chang's face turned cold. Shang, you will be buried in the Ji family's ancestral tomb when you die. When I become emperor, you shall be my imperial consort. His eyes held no trace of affection. Only resentment remained. And ambition. If I went with him, I would become a tool to undermine Xiaoyu. Life and death are predestined. I refuse to go with you. With that, I lifted my skirt and dashed out without looking back. Someone, help me. The words died as Ji Qing clamped his hand over my mouth. You have no choice. Chaos erupted before the grand hall. Amidst the furious crowd, clashes broke out between the people and Xiaoyu's imperial guards. Until someone bellowed, "The general is still alive." The uproar froze instantly. All eyes turned toward us. Beneath the silent stone steps, Ji Qing forced me upward. Step by step, his long sword pressed against my back. A murderous aura thickened in the air. Xiaoyu stood behind the imperial guards. His eyes cold and deep. Retreat. Do not harm her. The imperial guards formed a tight encirclement, shifting their formation as Ji Qing advanced. Ji Cheng's voice was measured and solemn. Your Majesty, our great Xia has suffered immense losses in this battle. It will take a century to recover and rebuild our strength. I believe we should end this war. Yet your Majesty, blinded by deceit, confuses right from wrong. First, you dishonored my wife, now you persecute loyal ministers and capable generals. I humbly beseech your Majesty to abdicate and yield the throne to a worthy successor. Xiaoyu gave a cold laugh. General Ji, do you truly act for the sake of the people? Yes. Dare you swear to heaven you harbor no personal motives? I do. And if I refuse? His clear, commanding voice echoed beneath the night sky. Ji Qing replied, Then I shall take the liberty of deciding for you. The countless archers and crossbowmen standing behind him would unleash a hail of arrows at his command, ending Xiaoyu's life. He showed no fear. Several elderly ministers hesitated. Your Majesty is the late emperor's only bloodline. Who else could there be? Suaningshi produced a jade pendant and held it aloft. The general is the late emperor's posthumous son, this is proof. The crowd erupted in uproar. The ministers immediately rushed forward to examine the pendant's authenticity. Moments later, they abruptly knelt, Your humble servants pay homage to His Royal Highness. The 16th Prince. The late emperor had a roving eye. Even in his twilight years, he remained deeply indulged in amorous affairs. After his passing, a woman, visibly pregnant, slipped secretly from the palace. Within her womb lay the 16th prince. That woman was said to be from the northern lands. Coincidentally, Ji Cheng's household registration was also in the northern regions. This perfectly aligned with the historical account. Now, Ji Cheng's words carried absolute credibility. Suaningshi declared, I wish to forge an alliance with the general, in exchange for a century of peace for Great Xia. In an instant, the crowd erupted in cheers. Wave upon wave of clamor rising. The cries demanding Xiaoyu's abdication grew louder. Only a few elderly ministers exchanged hesitant glances. Before they could speak, Ji Cheng's men dragged them away to be executed. Suaningshi fixed me with a glare, her eyes brimming with venomous hatred. She would have torn me limb from limb on the spot. But only I knew that jade pendant was a fake. Back when we were traveling to the capital, penniless and starving, we came upon a murdered merchant. Ji Qing risked everything to steal his baggage. The most precious item within was this very jade pendant. He was lying. I opened my mouth to speak, only to meet Xiaoyu's gaze. He shook his head slightly at me, signaling me to remain silent. This battle was unavoidable. And I, beyond being a liability to Xiaoyu, served no other purpose. Xiaoyu said, as long as you release Shangshang, everything can be discussed. Ji Qing pressed his blade against my lower back, gritting his teeth. This woman has some skill, she could ensnare His Majesty so deeply he'd risk his life for her. Ignoring the insults, I told Xiaoyu, my greatest hatred is the northern barbarians invading the central plains. If one day I become the shield blocking their path, I'd rather die. Shangshang, what are you doing? Panic flickered in Xiaoyu's eyes. As the first skyrocket lit the night sky, I broke free from Ji Cheng's grip and leapt off the heavenly steps. Falling from dozens of zhang high would leave me crippled if not dead. I saw Xiaoyu's deathly pale face and her figure charging toward me. Darkness swallowed me in an instant. I struck stone or caught on iron halberds, sliding into the abyss. I never intended to survive. Chaos erupted instantly. Swords clashed as arrows rained like a fiery storm, alight with flames, striking buildings and towers. Smoke billowed everywhere. Blood poured like rain. I finally crashed against a sloping stone wall, helplessly gazing at the crimson night. The battle raged all night long, the clamor of combat shaking the heavens. I saw piles of bodies tumbling down, and suddenly my whole body began to tremble. Those long-buried memories surged back like a tidal wave. As a child, I followed behind that person, skipping and jumping. Brother Xiaoyu, why do you always gaze toward the capital? Because it's my home. Why don't you go back? I can't. Why can't you? A much younger Xiaoyu, chewing on a blade of grass, chuckled. A little radish spirit like you shouldn't ask so many whys. Want some candy? Yes. Give me a kiss, little one, and I'll buy you candy. Back then, I followed him around, through streets and alleys. The northern lands were the fertile soil that nurtured us. Later, one day, Xiaoyu picked me up and asked, Brother Yu is going to the capital. Will you miss me when I'm gone? I burst into tears at once, clinging to him, refusing to let go. Xiaoyu beamed. I understand. When you grow up, come to the capital. Brother Xiaoyu will marry you. That figure I always recall is actually Xiaoyu. Later, I lay on a small hill, gazing toward the capital. At 12, I caught a high fever after getting drenched in the rain. From then on, my mind was never quite right. I couldn't remember much. Later still, Ji Qing came to our home. Gradually, I began to superimpose that figure onto Ji Qing. No wonder. During my first audience with the emperor in the capital, Xiaoyu bestowed many gifts upon me. He said, Little lady, now that you're married, live your life well. I cried, desperately scrambling out from beneath the chaotic heavenly steps. I wanted one last glimpse of Xiaoyu. Even just a single glance. Dawn was breaking. A faint, thin light spread across the earth. Before the palace gates, corpses littered the ground. That figure in bright yellow stood beneath the vast, endless sky, sword in hand, facing the fierce, biting wind. His robes were stained crimson. Ji Qing lay before him, one leg severed. All around, the imperial guards knelt in disarray. Xiaoyu coughed a few times, suddenly spitting out a mouthful of blood, and saw me. Shangshang. I forced myself to stand, crying as I ran toward him. Brother Yu. Xiaoyu looked over, his eyes filled with tenderness. Good Shangshang. You finally remembered your brother. Then his body went limp, and he collapsed. 3 months later, Your Majesty, Consort Suaningxi has given birth, a daughter. Early spring. Apricot blossoms bloomed outside the window. Head bowed, I finished the last stitch on the mandarin duck pouch. Lifting my gaze, I asked, Does Your Majesty know? Not long ago, Xiaoyu told me, regardless of gender, All must remain in the capital as hostages. The palace maid replied, His Majesty has gone to the heavenly prison. I sustained injuries during the last battle. Each night, the pain would wake me, troubling Xiaoyu into a flurry of activity. The next day, he would inevitably visit the heavenly prison to offer his condolences. I stretched my stiff limbs and, for the first time ever, went to the heavenly prison to find Xiaoyu. A single small lamp cast an eerie, terrifying glow over the dungeon. Led by someone, I arrived at the end of a narrow path. The voices of Ji Cheng and Xiaoyu drifted into my ears. Now, Xiaoyu showed no restraint whatsoever. Sitting before Ji Cheng, he told him how wonderful I was. You stole my glory, deceiving her into utter devotion. To share my bed, she must first divorce you. What audacity. Ji Cheng's voice was hoarse. Bound to the torture rack. Stealing another's wife was indeed despicable. So what if it's despicable? Prove yourself worthy of this throne. A palace maid blocked my path, forbidding me to advance another step. Your Highness is with child. You must take care of your health. The voices inside paused. Xiaoyu emerged in an instant. The frosty chill had melted from his features, replaced by a smile. Shang, what brings you to seek me out today? He had grown even more striking. His smile alone could make one's heart race. I recalled our quarrel last night. This was precisely the moment I should refuse to speak to him. So I pressed my lips together, remaining silent. Xiaoyu said, Still angry about me calling you by the wrong name? That's a mandarin duck, not a mallard. I corrected him again. Yes. Brother Yu has poor eyesight. But Shang has skillful hands. I turned and walked ahead, Xiaoyu following behind. We passed through the prison gates and boarded the carriage back to the palace. Now, that jade pendant had returned to its rightful owner, dangling at Xiaoyu's waist. Ji Qing awaited execution after the autumn harvest. Sua Ningxi, abandoned by her homeland, hanged herself the day after giving birth. I toyed with the jade pendant at Xiaoyu's waist and asked, How did you lose this when you came to the capital all those years ago? It was snatched from me. Xiaoyu answered with a casual air. But I knew there was a deep scar on his lower back. It nearly cost him his life back then. Resting my head on his chest, listening to his strong, steady heartbeat, I said, Then how did they prove you were a prince? Xiaoyu slowly smiled. When 13th brother died, his mother feared her own glory would fade. She found me to take his place. The whip marks on your body. Naturally, she inflicted them. Xiaoyu added, as if afraid I might not understand. And they hurt terribly. I fell silent, lowering my head. I silently clutched his fingers, rubbing them back and forth, because I suddenly remembered why Xiaoyu had come to the capital. That year, a snow disaster struck, leaving our family with no harvest. Crouching on the wall, I clung to Xiaoyu in the dead of night, sobbing uncontrollably. I said, Brother Yu, if only I knew the emperor. I want to eat my fill, never to go hungry again. Xiaoyu stroked my head then, sighed, and said, How about Brother Yu becomes emperor instead? Really? Really? That would be wonderful. Plop. A tear fell. Xiaoyu paused, pulled me close. Why are you crying? I didn't scold you. Hearing that, I cried even harder. Are you crazy? How could you stake your entire life on a mere jest? Xiaoyu replied, How could it be a jest? Every word Shang speaks is etched in my heart. Right after Xiaoyu returned from battle, everyone thought he was dying. Several ministers pressured me to be buried alive with him. Back then, I drowned in tears, crouching by his bedside day after day, murmuring to him, Brother Yu, I don't want to die. After 3 days of this, Xiaoyu suddenly placed his hand on my head, stroking it. His voice was hoarse. Which bastard dared order my Shangshang to be buried alive? He opened his eyes. He'd reached the king of hell's palace, heard Shangshang weeping, and returned. No sooner had he regained his health than several ministers began picking fights again. They said my virtue was unworthy of the position. A woman who had been married before could not be empress. Xiaoyu punished me by cutting my allowance and confining me to the mansion to reflect on my mistakes. The carriage rumbled through the palace gates. I sighed. If only I hadn't married Ji Cheng. Xiaoyu lowered his eyes. If you were truly happy with him, I could have let you go. But seeing him like that, I couldn't bear it. Shangshang. Xiaoyu murmured softly. That time you pinned me to the bed. I was mad with joy. But everyone says you. Xiaoyu let out a soft chuckle. Says what? I just love you. I love you no matter what. My heart fluttered. And a bold thought suddenly struck me. Brother you. What is it? My face flushed as I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly. How about I make up for our consummation? Xiaoyu's breath caught. How? The first time was too rushed. There's something I never got to say. I murmured in his ear for a long while. Xiaoyu grunted softly, gripping my hand tightly. His voice was hoarse. Say it again. Brother you. I adore you. The end.